You see, I know for a fact, I've been fighting for Vietnam right here in Crawfordville. I don't intend to go no here. Nobody don't come giving me no swing. I'm out there just a swinging, and they're out there just a stealing. Yeah. That's what they're doing. Man come telling me today, Brother Bobby Johnson, the representative for the state, come telling me, come telling me that I want you to wait a minute there now. I love Negro. He said, you don't know, but I'll die for this. I said, you just told a dying lie. You gonna tell me you gonna die for Negro? I know better than that. The scheme, though, they're trying to keep Negro children enslaved for another 100 years. Yeah. To the leader of this great movement, Mr. Turner, to make it clear that you are not going to allow anybody from the State House on down to the state troopers to turn you around. I want to commend you for your great fellowship, and I certainly want to thank the members of my own staff and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference for the great work that they've done here and the tremendous sacrifices. That to go another step or say another word without presenting to you my devoted wife, Mrs. Coretta Scott King. Yeah. The hardship of the rural South has made it in so many instances virtually impossible for men and women such as yourselves to engage in the freedom struggle. Yet your presence and enthusiasm here tonight and what you've done over the last several weeks indicate that the dream of freedom has long been within your hearts, and that courage lay dormant, waiting only for an opportunity and a reasonable method by which freedom might be attained. As is often the case, our destiny is determined by the tragic circumstances of our oppression. It is as though the time has come when we must stand our ground as free men or be buried forever in the oblivion of another 100 years of suffering and misery. Such was the case with Rosa Parks in Montgomery, Alabama. She didn't want to start a movement. She merely reached the limit of her endurance when the bitter cup of suffering had run over. And she chose to stand her ground and say with those who had prophesied of old, before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. And so you in Crawfordville did not plan to stir the nation with your plight. You merely sought to register and vote as free men. But the blind opposition of your oppressors fired Mr. Turner and Mr. Harris for having organized a voter registration drive. And then when you attempted to provide an Operation Head Start for your children under the federal government's poverty program, these same persons closed your center in an attempt to kill even this limited opportunity. And finally, as you sought to gain the adequate education promised by the Supreme Court way back in 1954 and reaffirmed in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, your oppressors chose to close a formerly white school in a determined resistance to all that this nation has held to be the law of the land. And so you were left with no choice but to demonstrate. And we were left with no choice but to support you in those demonstrations. For we could not sit idly by in Atlanta and watch you humiliated and beaten and jailed and fired even from your present meager jobs. Our conscience and our determined pledge in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to assist in integrating the Negro into every area of American life and thereby redeem the soul of America made it necessary for us to come to your aid. And so now we stand together, determined to dramatize the plight of the Negro in the rural South in such a way that the conscience of the nation may be stirred and the changes promised by 10 years of litigation and legislation might finally be fulfilled even in rural Georgia. And we are going to work with determination, and I want you to know that the Southern Christian Leadership Conference is not here on a dash-in, dash-out basis, but we are here to stand at your side until freedom is yours. We are working all over this state to bring about a threefold assault on the unjust conditions that you face in this community. Just today, I met with I might also say that we assemble here tonight to say to our white brothers in the state of Georgia that there will be neither peace nor tranquility in this community until the Negro receives justice in Crawfordville. We are determined to be free, and we are determined to achieve that freedom now. We are determined to breathe life into the democracy that has lain these many generations a dead and useless thing for millions of black Americans. Our determination is not a brag. It is not a boast. It is not a thing we whistle up in the dark hours of the night when we know not from which direction a blow may fall or an assassin's bullet may speed. It is as old as our foreparents' revolt against the evil system of slavery, and as modern as our willingness to face the sharp teeth of vicious dogs, the brutal hands of inhuman policemen, and the staggering waters of powerful fire hoses. Let me say to everyone assembled here that we must recognize the urgency of the moment. And we are going to say to the state of Georgia that we will not be fooled any longer. For we know that the cancer of segregation cannot be cured by the Vaseline of gradualism or the sedative